Good morning to you as well. We have with us Dr. Nalaka Godahewa, former chairman of the Securities Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka, former chairman of Sri Lanka Tourism, and also the former chairman of Sri Lanka Insurance, a leading businessman who is here with us to talk about the economic aspect and the phase we are going through right now in the country. A very good morning to you, Doctor.
Very good morning.
And today is the 21st of April, and it certainly reminds us of the tragic incident which happened in our country exactly a year ago. So when this happened, Sri Lanka faced a massive economic crisis because we are a country who depends on tourism. And there was a massive dropout in people coming into the country and a lot of issues. And we were going through a tough time trying to cope with it. So on a day like today, I would like to touch on that aspect. And it's exactly a year and we're still trying to recover and we're facing a pandemic.
Yes, Easter Sunday last year was one of the most tragic days that we have experienced in our lives. Nearly 300 people got killed, over 500 people got injured, large number of families got shattered. I would like to express my heartfelt condolences today for all those people who got affected and who suffered and are still suffering because of this. Our hearts are with them. We cannot forget what they are going through. As far as the country is concerned, yes, that affected the country very badly at that time. We were just we were struggling actually. We were struggling economically in any way when this took place. You know, from 2015 until 2019, Sri Lanka's economy was on a decline. Growth rates were coming down and economy was in disarray. In a situation like that, the Easter Sunday attack made the situation worse. As you very correctly said, tourism got very badly affected. Tourism was one of the main revenue sources for the country at that time. And then over the year, whilst rest of the industries were struggling, tourism to some extent started bouncing back. And then we are now facing with another issue. This is the corona crisis, which is a bigger issue in a way because this is really global. This is not restricted to Sri Lanka. I mean, during our lifetime, we have seen so many problems. The world always has problems. During our lifetime also, we have seen terrorism, we have seen droughts, we have seen floods, we have seen wars, all those things. But we had never seen a pandemonium like this where the entire world is affected. Today, every single country, whether it is a developing country or a developed country, is helpless in front of this virus. Even the mighty America is struggling today. America has become the epicenter.
Exactly, the next epicenter right after Wuhan.
Exactly, for the problem. So in such a situation, Sri Lanka is also going to have a lot of repercussions from this. But I think if we carefully plan and face this, it is not something that we cannot fight.
Exactly. And as you very correctly mentioned, that the tourism industry was just getting back and it was booming, and then this pandemic had to happen, and obviously we count on imports, exports, and Sri Lanka is a country which exports a lot of products overseas as well, and with this pandemic spreading across globally and people are suffering because airports are shut down, ports are closed, and exports, and China also has hit a record low in their economy, if I'm not mistaken, after a decade or so. So as an economist and as a leading businessman, do you think we have any opportunity to recover this and balance both saving human lives and also trying to balance our economy? Because we also count on small-scale entrepreneurs as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Let's see what will happen as a result of this situation, corona. The economies of entire world will get affected. You know, an economy is a collection of transactions. No, people buy and sell, exchange goods. To buy goods, they use cash as well as credits. So these transactions collectively create an economy. When the transactions grow, economy grows. That's how things happen. The world economy was at a growth phase when it came to 2020. 2019, we ended with about 3.9% overall growth rate globally. Even though Sri Lanka was performing bad, we had a growth rate of just around 2% at that time. Anyway, globally we were doing okay, but there were predictions of a recession anyway. And then now this corona situation came, we can expect these transactions to go down. People will not have money to spend. Even people who have money will not spend. They will hold it. So the money circulation will slow down. When money circulation slows down, transactions will come down further, and businesses will get affected. Businesses will have to get rid of their people, right? Cut down costs. So kind of a recession will start all over the world.
Exactly. It's not only in Sri Lanka, but I also read a news article very recently that even Disney has cut down salaries for many of their staffs.
It will happen. It will happen because when there's no income, you can't manage your cost. You have to cut down somewhere. When you cut down, people lose jobs, and when people lose jobs, they don't have money to spend. When they don't spend money, the close by grocery shop doesn't have money. When the close by grocery shop doesn't have money, they don't buy from the wholesaler. When the wholesaler doesn't have money, the supplier doesn't have money. So it becomes a vicious cycle. That's what happens. So in Sri Lanka also we can expect the same situation. But in a way, we have a little, I don't call it advantage, but a situation that provides us some protection. That is, most of our economy is within Sri Lanka. If you look at our exports, it's only about 10 billion US dollars. Our total overall economy is about 90 billion US dollars, of which exports are only
10 billion.
10 billion, which is not something that we can be proud of. We should be ashamed of that. But in this situation, it becomes kind of a
Advantage
safety net,
for us.
because the rest of the economy is within the country, right? So but of course we will get hit in several other areas, like the areas where we were generating foreign income, like the workers who are working abroad, who are sending about 7 billion US dollars, will not send that much anymore. Tourism, which generated about 4.4 billion, will more or less crash for a short while. Apparel industry, which was generating about 5.5 billion, will now see a decline. So those things will get affected. However, if we can keep our local economy active, we can survive, right? We can survive for some time. But however, that we cannot do if we keep this lockdown for a very, very long period. We have to get back and get our economy activated. That's a tough call. How do you control this corona situation and get the economy activated? But if you don't do that, then you're going to face trouble.
Certainly, in some areas, the lockdown has been eased so that people can get to work, but only in crucial, like critical, high-risk areas, this is still continuing. As you did mention, it's not easy to bring back the economy when everyone's at home. And but there's also another point you touched on, Doctor. You said that people won't be ready to spend money. So there are institutions, there are organizations in Sri Lanka which manufacture a lot of things, and now probably people feel like, do we actually need those right now? Because we are going through a crisis, we got to save money. So what about those institutions, like massive malls? There are so many places to visit in Sri Lanka. So, and especially with this pandemic around, I don't think people are ready to go into crowded places as well, even if the lockdown has been eased.
Yeah, actually, those are going to get affected. That's part of the recession when people don't spend money. What is not essential gets affected first, right? But for an economy, all these things must function. So it's how fast. It's a matter of how fast we can get back on track. Actually, that is where a government will have to play a role. And when a recession like this comes, governments must make sure that there's some kind of money release into the system. If you look at Sri Lanka, something like 10% of our economy is under the control of the government in terms of government consumption. That cannot stop. That has to go on. And the government must, at this stage, particularly support the private sector. The private sector companies who are doing with businesses should be supported. The business must continue. Then only they will be able to pay their people. Then only they will be able to pay their suppliers. Right? So, likewise, there's a role that can be played, and also we should not discourage people from spending. We must encourage people to spend. Sometimes it might look a little odd when I say you must encourage people to spend in a situation like that.
Contradicting.
As an individual, if you look at it as an individual, yes, you must. The advice would be, if you ask me as a consultant to an individual, I'll say play safe. But from a country point of view, I would say get the economy going. Get the economy going, because this cycle has to work at the end of the day for you to benefit. If you play safe, everybody will play safe, economy will come to a halt, and finally you yourself will get affected.
Which is true. And since this is a health crisis, unlike any other curfews, this depends on what the health personnel have to say, and their advice given is also very important. So because of this lockdown, and because people have been advised about how critical this is, and about connecting with people, and social distancing is key, so we've been speaking about that a lot on radio as well. So knowing all this, the issue is this should be also, the health authorities should also come up with something to let the people know that, things can work when the curfew is eased and if they can move about, but they should be provided with certain advice so that they can move about without having fear in their heart.
See, at this stage, the most important thing is the safety of the people.
Of course, human life is important.
Human life is more important than anything. Even though I say, since you are discussing economy, I said the economy has to be restarted. That does not mean that we can compromise the safety of people. So that's the priority. That is why the government took some hard decisions, like imposing curfew and encouraging people to maintain social distancing, lockdown, and all those things are part of that safety net. That has to be done. And then at which point that's going to be removed and released has to be done based on the advice of the health experts. Nobody else knows that. They are the only people who can advise that. But to a very great extent, it looks like the government has contained the situation, because they have been very good at contact tracing. When there's a patient identified, government has been very effective in identifying all the people who have made contact with that people and send those people for quarantine. So in that sense, compared to many other countries, we are ahead. But we still see isolated cases coming up from here and there, which is putting the entire country at risk. So, however, based on this knowledge, based on these facts, we can take a decision when to reopen the economy, when to get various districts, various towns open up. However, this situation will continue for many more months to come, because the problem is there out there. Even though Sri Lanka may have contained this to some extent, the people who went abroad will start coming. Foreigners will start coming. You cannot do without that. The borders will have to be open. So when people come, they can bring the virus, right? So this is a chicken and egg situation. You can't stop it, right? So therefore, what we need to do is we must have all the precautions within the country to control that. So that comes to do with discipline more than anything else. There are health guidelines given by the government. More health guidelines are being developed as to how the factories, the companies must function. People must respect those things and adhere to those things. That's the only way they can support themselves as well as the country.
And as you very correctly mentioned, businesses should be back so that we can get this money flowing into the country and money being circulated within the country as well, because there are a lot of small-scale entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka, and now we see a lot of essential good owners and the people who work on that, the farming and homemade goods, they're all making cash out of this situation, because we count on them, because we really need essential services. Some countries like America and different other countries have not stopped their businesses, but Sri Lanka is still thinking about it. So how do you think the government should work towards this to bring this back to normalcy? And what would you like to tell all the people who are all these entrepreneurs out there to do in terms of getting this flow back?
See, the way different countries approach this problem was different. Certain countries put economy first. Certain countries put health first. Now, America, for example, President Trump, I understand, he has been focused more on ensuring that the economy is not going to get affected. That's one way of thinking. Of course, you can't argue whether what is right or wrong, but clearly they were more focused on safeguarding the economy. In Sri Lanka, the approach was, people's lives are the priority. So safety first. That's the approach that was taken by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. That is why before many other countries, we decided to go for a lockdown. And I think that's the right decision. Today, when you compare with the rest of the world, the number of deaths in this country are minimal. And also the number of people affected are also very low compared to other countries. Now, the countries who have a lesser population have a bigger rate of affected people. However, as I said earlier, now we have to open up now. Now we need to think how we are going to do that. Mm-hmm. In that opening up, we must remember, if you look at our economy, in our economy, bulk of the economy, more than 55% of the economy confined to small and medium sector. They are the people who are providing 75% of the employment. People work in a somebody may be working in a smaller company who have, let's say, 5 employees or 10 employees. Collectively, they contribute 75% of the country's employment. So if these companies die, what happens to those people? They get unemployed. When they get unemployed, that's going to affect their household economy and the economy of the village, the economy of the country, finally. So therefore, we need to safeguard those people. The government has already taken a lot of steps as to how we can support the small and medium sector. Concessions have been given, moratorium has been given. Sometimes we see those things are not getting implemented properly, even though government has issued circulars. The implementation, there are weaknesses, but we have to put those things right fast and protect this. And also, the biggest issue that I see is more than the small and medium-sized entrepreneurs, the self-employed people. That's going to be the worst affected. A lot, unless the economy gets reactivated, they are not going to get an income. The government can't keep supporting them, because that's too big a population to manage. So that is why we have to get this going. Sometimes I see people saying, okay, let's continue this for a while. And if you really look at those people who say so, most of the people are fixed income earners. You stay home, you get your salary anyway, and you think you can continue like that. But remember, your company can't. You may get your salary at the end of the month.
But only for some time.
Only for some time, because your company can't. If you don't go back to work, if you don't start contributing, your company will face problem and eventually you'll get affected. So therefore, everybody must understand that the economy has to be back on track. But it has to be done in a manner that will not affect people's lives.
So what would you like to tell all the entrepreneurs out there? What would your advice be to them? I
think you must look at opportunities in this crisis. Because the new situation always creates new opportunities. We can all already see that people are making new things. The creativity has got a place. Right? And also some of the government policies will help you. For example, it looks like government is going to control some imports, at least in a short while, right? Particularly in the food area. Now, what does that mean? When these imports, I think Sri Lanka has food imports to the value of US dollar 1.4 billion or something. So when food imports are controlled to some extent, that becomes a business opportunity for a local entrepreneur. So local entrepreneurs must see these opportunities and grab those things. And that is where your creativity has to play a role. And when the situation change, people's requirements change. And when people's requirements change, that again creates new business opportunities. And also the problems are not confined to Sri Lanka. The problems are out there. In the world, there are business opportunities that are opening up. Take the apparel industry, for example, the healthcare product, right?
People are short of protective gear.
And all those things. So new opportunities. So in this crisis, if we act smart, if we think ahead, we can find many opportunities to make an income, grow your business and grow the country at the end of the day.
As a final, Doctor, we understand that the government is obviously playing a massive role in curbing this situation, and you did give some advice to the small scale and self workers, independent people who want to make a living out of what they are capable of doing. But the general public also plays a massive role in curbing this situation. So what's your message to the general public? How should they act in a situation of this sort?
2 primary things. First one, listen to the advice given by the government and the health experts, because we are fighting an invisible enemy as a country. It's a difficult war that we are fighting.
It's like a silent war, basically.
It's a silent war, it's a difficult war, it's a different, unusual war, right? In that, we all have to be together, right? We all have a responsibility to make sure that we win this war. In order to win the war, each person has a role to play. What you have to do is to listen to the advice of the health experts. Maintain social distancing. Don't infect somebody else. And make sure that minimize the chance of you getting infected. So even though the country may open up, the curfew will be lifted, adhere to these guidelines at your workplace, at wherever you go. That is the responsibility 1. That is in relation to the coronavirus. Mm-hmm. The second responsibility is helping the country to bounce back. This coronavirus is going to affect the country, economy very badly, and eventually everybody affected. Everybody is going to suffer. Economic hardships are going to be very common. So in that, what do? How can you help the country? And indirectly, by doing so, help yourself also. For that, you need to make sure that you make some kind of economic contribution to the country. Every person can ask a question from yourself. Am I contributing to the economy? in doing my job, in doing my business, in farming my land? Am I making a contribution to the economy one way or the other? If I don't make that contribution, then I should be ashamed, particularly in a situation like that. Everybody should be able to make a contribution. So find ways to contribute. Do your job better. Work harder. When you go back after this corona open up, work harder than before. And do something that will, your economic contribution will be more for your company, more for your business, more for your own farm, whatever. And that is the second responsibility I think we have in our hand. First, take care of yourself from a health point of view. Secondly,
you need to be around.
Yeah,
exactly.
You need to be around. Second, contribute to the economy. Like Japan rose from the ashes after the Second World War, because all the people took it serious that we have to rebuild the country. I think Sri Lankans must now get together to rebuild the country. If we get together with the right leadership that we have now, I think we can get out of this country. Not only that, we can achieve our original objective of making this a developed country.
Thank you so much. Thank you for enlightening us, and thank you very much for being a part of the show.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
We were in conversation with Dr. Nalaka Godahewa, former chairman of the Securities Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka, former chairman of the Sri Lanka Tourism Board, and former chairman of Sri Lanka Insurance. And it's back to Sound Day this morning.